Hey everyone, welcome back to the Derick podcast. We're here in the vault today. We've got a guest that's been here for a few years. He's had some great background stories I'm sure we'll get into. Anyone that's from Southern Utah will be aware of the Californias that are moving in. So we'd like to welcome one on the show today. This is Bill Richison. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we're going to touch on some cool topics, and it seems like we have some things in common as far as what you do for work, and we'll get into it. But I love that you've brought a couple notes yourself too, that we've had a couple guests do that. So it's kind of fun to know that you've prepared for it as well.
Yeah, sometimes I can be a little scatterbrained and lose track of my thoughts. So I like to have things written out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. So I usually have a notepad here with just kind of a direction of how I want to go. I'm also, I'm a talker. I have a podcast, right? But I have all this stuff written down because we'll get off on some tangent and I'll forget where we were.
That's
and then
me.
I can refer back to okay, we did talk about that. This is the next topic. So yeah, it seems like we're a lot more similar than you would think. Growing up on, I've lived in Utah my whole life. I was born in Salt Lake, been in St. George since I was 7, so pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
And you coming from California, and we're very similar.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's a lot of differences between people just because they're from a certain place. I mean, yeah, it may be a little different. Maybe my slang is a little different than yours, but at heart, a lot of people are the same.
Sure. Yeah, I growing up in Utah, we kind of have the stigma of and I'm LDS, I'm a Mormon, Latter-day Saints, whatever they're calling us now. So there's kind of that stigma of like the weird Mormons, right? And their weird beliefs. And so if anything, we're the weird ones, not the California people, as far as the eye of how everyone sees Utah. So
Yeah, and I did not know a lot about Mormonism before I moved here. Strangely enough, my mother's mother is Mormon.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Didn't know that until about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I think she recently converted, but yeah, so.
Is she in California?
She is, yep.
Okay. Cool. So first off, let's talk about your job. I'm super interested in that and
Yeah,
how
absolutely.
you guys go about doing that. If you want to just give a little background on what you do and the different regulations maybe, and I do want to throw on here that we're not lawyers.
No.
We're not going to be held accountable
Just
for anything.
a guy with a beard and a flannel, and
Exactly.
I can maybe talk a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us a little bit about what you do for work.
All right, so I work for a company called Form 1Z Suppressors. We make Form 1 suppressor kits. These are titanium suppressor kits. So the difference between Form 1 and Form 4 is...
You're talking like the literal form.
Yep,
Yeah.
the ATF form application for a tax stamp. Yep, so we do Form 1s. Form 1s is where you apply to be a manufacturer or to make the suppressor. So are you familiar with the 80% lowers?
Yep.
These are similar to 80% suppressor kits.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone can just purchase one of these,
Absolutely. Yep,
And
you
then-
can buy them off our website, form1z.com.
and then what's the process after that, after they get it? Because it's not,
It's not immediate. So
Right.
you go online onto the ATF's website, you fill out a Form 1 tax stamp application. Once that comes back approved, which is coming back in about 15 to 30 days.
oh, geez, that's nothing.
Yep, it's a quick turnaround time. You engrave your unit with the information that you put on your Form 1. You drill out your front cap and all your baffles, and you have a 100% legal and licensed suppressor.
And then you were saying because it's made in Utah. Now, is this like nationwide?
So there are several states that we cannot send
Okay.
to. California, Hawaii, I know Washington, D.C.
New
There's several
York,
other, New
New
York. There's
Jersey.
several other states that we can't ship to, but I think like 43 states, something like that.
Okay. And then do they have, I guess it'll be on the form, but do they have to put what state they made it in? Because I just know the Utah rules, like we were talking before we started, where you'd have to put made in Utah or however they classify that.
So I'm not 100% sure
Okay.
on that part.
Okay.
There are several things that you do have to make plain on the engraving as well as on the application. But those are very, very clear in the Form 1.
And then when you have to drill out the baffles and the end cap, and how does someone get that like perfectly aligned? You just
So
drill
we have a
press
little
it?
jig that we
Okay.
give you, and it connects to your drill press. You do have to use a drill press because you're drilling through titanium.
Sure.
We have the lightest weight suppressors for their volume in the world because we run titanium and they're direct thread. So you do have to drill through all your front cap or all your baffles in your front cap. So each one of those gets put in your jig that goes into the vise, and we have a drill guide bit.
Got you.
Yeah, so it makes it simple.
And
So
then,
simple, even a Marine like me can do it.
so there's a $200 tax
stamp.
stamp.
Yep.
That's with this as well.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's no getting around that. Whether you're doing it Form 1, where you create it, or Form 4, where you go to a store and buy it, there's still that $200 tax stamp application.
Okay. And then they give you the serial number, I believe, and that's
For
what
a
you would
Form
have to
1,
put on.
you choose your serial number.
Oh, okay. They can be anything you want.
Anything you want.
That's awesome. As long as someone else hasn't taken it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. How long you been doing that? I mean, how did this all come
Couple
about?
months. So a buddy of mine from college over at Dixie State, he realized that I was going to be taking a break from school and asked me what I was going to be doing. I told him I hadn't figured it out yet, and asked me if I wanted to work with him and his uncle, who owns the company. And I said I'd take a look at the product, and, because I'm always a skeptic about things like this, being from a military background.
Yeah.
I don't want to just sell, solvent traps.
Right. And say, because some of this is some gray area sketchy.
Yeah. So I wanted to see the facility and everything, and they really blew me away. The technology that they're working with, the level of the product, it's great stuff.
That's awesome. So it's a hometown family business,
Yeah.
grown from their home, right?
Yep. We're operating out of our owner's basement right now. We have
That's awesome.
massive plans for growth in the future. So
That's awesome. I mean, that's half of my business. Well, yeah, I guess, all my businesses started at my house and then I've grown to where I'm at, where I've got brick and mortar store. We have, different courier routes with vehicles and employees. And all that started from my basement. So that's awesome.
yeah, it's really impressive, the technology. And the owner of the company, Buck, he worked for aerospace engineering companies for over 20 years. So he's a wizard when it comes to engineering. Sometimes he'll start talking to me about specs, and I just have to slow him down and be like, Buck, I need English or, layman's terms.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. So you were kind of brought to us through Marcus, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had watched his episode or maybe heard of us through him,
Mhm.
and then
Yep. Saw your guys' episode. My partner, Bethany, brought it to me and was like, hey, Marcus, that guy that owns that Muay Thai gym, was on this podcast. And I had not been able to meet him yet at that point. She had
Okay.
taken a class from him. I was just working a lot at that time. But I finally got to go to one of his classes and meet him, and he's a great guy. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a good time interviewing him. The biggest thing I took from that was I would have zero problem sending anybody to his gym, his classes. I don't know what you
yeah.
call it, but like
Yeah,
the classes
I
that he
point
teaches.
everyone in his direction.
Yeah. You can definitely tell he knows what he's talking about, and he's passionate about it, and that's
Yeah, and he's
those
got
are
a
two
great
things you
heart.
need. Yeah, good guy. I got to talk about your beard for a second.
All right.
So how long have you had your beard?
Oof.
Long
Partner
time?
keeps we have a little record of it. It hasn't been long. At about the 9-month mark, that was about 2 months ago, I got about an inch or about 2 inches taken off of it.
Really?
So
Yeah.
had some dead ends, and I wanted to keep it healthy. So
It's anyone that's listening on audio, dude, your beard is legit.
I'm trying to get it to Gandalf size.
Yeah. Well, see, like me, I've had mine forever. It's rarely longer than this. Like, I just can't grow it any longer than this. I don't know what the problem is.
blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
You know, I trimmed it up a little bit before I came here. I grow it all the way up to like
Almost
up
your
past
eyeballs.
yeah, just about. I had to shave it once down there in boot camp.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, just ever since then, it's just like a werewolf.
Yeah.
It's like that scene from that Tim Allen movie, the Christmas movie, where
Yeah.
he shaves his beard, looks down, and he comes back up, and it's there again.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Santa Claus, yeah.
Yep. I have the Santa Claus curse.
Yeah, see, I don't get it on my cheeks. I never have. Like, I get a good, like, chin strap going for my ears or from my sideburns to sideburn. Nothing on my cheeks.
Hey,
I'm a
well,
little
it's still very
jealous.
full, and, you know.
Like Blake, Mallory's fiance that's been on the podcast a couple times. He's got a great beard, and I'm always jealous every time I see him.
I mean, I wouldn't classify yours as a not great beard.
I'm like a 6 out of 10.
Hey, I mean, everyone's at their own level. It's a universal experience.
Yeah. You had mentioned you're military.
Yes, sir.
Give me a little background on that. So Marines.
Yes, sir. So I joined the Marine Corps in July of 2010. Well, a little bit before then. I joined when I was in high school. I signed up during high school and waited a few months until I graduated. And once I graduated, I was able to go to boot camp. So
Where'd you go boot camp?
Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego. So over in San Diego.
Cool. So pretty close to home.
You spend about a month on Camp Pendleton, second phase.
Cool. And then you were in for how many years?
5.
5.
I
Good
got
for you,
out
man.
August 2015.
Yeah, thank you. Seriously.
Thanks for the support.
I'm not that guy. I mean, my brother was in the National Guard Reserve in our local unit, and I've always been thankful for it because I don't think I could do it. Like, if I was drafted or something happened and I had to go, I'd go and had to have a good attitude about it. But man, just volunteering, I look up to all you guys. So thanks.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, looking back, I don't think if I could have looked back at myself and been like, yeah, that kid probably would have done well in the military. You know, I don't think it would have been me. But my father was also a little bit confused when I told him I wanted to join the military. But prior to that, I told him I wanted to be a pro wrestler. So
Yeah.
it was all over the place.
Sure.
You know, my dad must have whiplash like a crazy.
Well, I think it's crazy to think that people or kids or whatever you want to say, like you're asked at like 6 years old, like, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah, it's
You know,
nuts.
and I'm like, I'm 30. I'm 32. I'm almost 33. I still don't even know. I'm just like working every day, you know?
I'm just trying to stay above the line of the water.
Exactly. Exactly. Do you have any, I don't know why. I'm just thinking to ask you, do you have any good stories from your military experience? Where did you, I'd have deported in my head. It's not the right word. Deployed.
So I never deployed.
Okay.
No, I stayed stateside. I was in a unit called VMU-1. We were a UAV reconnaissance unit.
Okay.
So back when I was active, the Marine Corps was still new in the UAV game, and it was mostly gathering reconnaissance through the UAVs and laser designating targets for the manned aircrafts, drop aircrafts.
Sure.
Or drop ordnance.
Yeah. So where would they do that from? How far away from these UAVs can you be?
They have a pretty good distance on them. You know?
Ah, that's interesting.
And these weren't ones that nowadays it's very common at the squad level to have a guy who pops a little UAV out of his pack and pop it up.
Yeah.
Like you saw back in the Navy SEAL movies.
Got you.
You know, back when I was in, we didn't have those. We were literally going out into the desert, creating runways, setting up a launch device, setting up these UAVs that are, you know, the sizes of sometimes a minivan, launching them into the air, and then, gathering that reconnaissance.
And then in California, we had talked a little bit about you and your dad did a little entrepreneur business.
Yeah, dipped my toes in just a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was a cool idea. maybe can you run through a little bit of that, your relationship with your dad going through the business? I know family businesses can get a little twisty-turny.
Yeah, and it definitely created lessons for me to learn from if I ever decide to go back into business for myself.
Yeah.
We owned a company called Central Coast Tasting Tours, and the area that I'm from has over 300 wineries and a good amount of breweries and distilleries that are popping up as well. And what we would do is we'd go to either your hotel or your Airbnb or wherever you're staying in town, pick you up, take you to several different wineries in the area, let you do your tastings, eat your lunch, not have to worry about navigation and DUIs and all that bad stuff. Never drink and drive.
Yeah.
Never drink and drive. And then at the end of the day, we would take them home and make sure they got to their final destination in one place. So, yeah,
So,
it was a good business.
And so you guys would know where to go. Some would, I don't drink, so I don't know.
One of the great things was going to a lot of the wineries, and they would know that you're with a company and say, hey, come do our tasting after after work for free. That way you can talk to them about our wine. So it can become a little bit dangerous. There are some cautionary tales for that business aspect. There was a guy in that area that did run into some issues with drinking and driving on the job. Counterintuitive to why you would create a business like that.
Yeah.
Again, don't drink and drive.
Yeah, kind of the point, or one of the big points.
Yeah.
What was it like? I'm just always curious to hear everyone else's entrepreneur stories on what they're doing. It's a cool business to get into, I would think, because you're meeting new people all the time, which I enjoy. You're hitting different businesses to support those businesses, so you're almost like an income train coming through their businesses.
Yeah, they want to invest in you so that you can bring busloads of people in.
Exactly.
So, one of my favorite wineries, Midnight Cellars. Every time I'm in town, I still visit them. They have, I think, the best Malbec in North America.
And that's a wine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Malbec is a varietal of wine.
You got to help me a little bit on that.
Yeah. See, and I'm the California guy, so my norm is slightly different than yours.
Yeah.
When me and my partner, Bethany, went to my hometown to visit my family, she walked into my father's dining room, and he has this big cabinet full of alcohol bottles, and she was like, just all out in the open.
You're like, yeah, that's how it
It's
goes
our
here.
business.
So is she from here then?
She grew up here in
St. George?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I don't know if you want to put her name on here or not. I was going to say, what's her name? But
her name is Bethany.
Bethany. Nice. So it's a little bit of a culture shock when she went over there.
For her and for me, coming here.
Yeah.
So she's helped me understand some of the more norms here.
Sure.
It's been a difficult adjustment. So sometimes I bring that West Coast mentality with me that is a bit abrasive.
Yeah. Abrasive's fine.
For sandpaper.
Yeah. Well, it's like we talked about before we got on. We were talking about being contentious, having you put it more elegant than I did. How did you put it?
All growth stems from conflict.
There you go. And that's a quote by
Sun Tzu.
And he's The Art of War.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Shout out to Marcus. He's got that book in his library at the dojo.
There you go. I've never been someone that's shied away from conflict, and I don't know if it's growing up with three older brothers that you kind of took the brunt of most of the stuff. So when you got a word in, you said it. When you're being listened to, you got it out there fast, quick. You can get a lot of attention from my brothers, right, when I was younger. So I don't know if it comes from that or where it comes from, but I don't know. When you said that, it kind of put me to, that's how I kind of run a lot of my business life. Even my wife will tell you, like, I have no problem being upfront with people, but yeah. I feel like why would you want to be any other way? Like, let's just get the problem figured out and move on.
Yeah. Sometimes I run into being too upfront or too hasty when I'm being upfront, maybe.
Okay. By what do you mean? Give me an example.
a lot of energy. There are ways to be head on and confrontational about solving problems without getting emotional about them.
Like a little more tactful or
Tactful. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a guy that I hung around a lot with when I was younger that really taught me that, because my dad was very emotional and very reactive. And when I was, I mean, I've mentioned him a bunch, so Ron Stout, he's not with us anymore, but I was around him a lot, and he really showed me that it's like, take a second, analyze it, take a breath. Everything doesn't have to be 100% emotion. And that's what I was before then. And so it was a big eye opener for me. And I've never had that example in my life until then. And so I don't know, for me, it was like a life-changing moment for me to be able to, in a business, that's huge. So you're not just like emotional reactive to everything,
Yeah. You got to leave business out of, or you got to leave emotion out of business.
Yeah. Well, if you want to survive, yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to polarize yourself.
Exactly. And I mean, I run a retail business mainly. That's where most of my time is spent. And we've had the few customers that have disagreed with how, we handle things, or there's a miscommunication. Like, well, we had one that they had submitted an order with us. They had paid us. And then he had also submitted an order with another company for the same safe. So they had a dual order. He paid us, he didn't pay them. And so with the manufacturer, I got the manufacturer involved, and I'm like, look, I don't care what we do. We just need to solve the problem. And if that ends up going through me, great. If it goes through the other guy, it's just going to be more hassle. But if that's what you guys want to do, just tell me what you want to do.
Right. There are clear solutions. Someone just has to actually initiate getting that ball rolling.
Right. And the customer ended up calling me, and like I said, I don't get worked up very much. He ends up calling me and he's cussing at me. He's yelling at me. He's telling me that I don't want him to come down here and handle it. And I kind of had to laugh to myself. And I told him, I'm like, look, man, I'm trying to solve the problem for you. And he's like, I've already solved it. Just refund my money. And I'm like, I'll do that if that's what you want me to do. But I don't know if that's the simplest solution for everybody. Like, that may cause more of a headache for everyone.
Right.
And anyway, long story short, I ended up just refunding him and he had said, he says, I don't know how you have any business and why anybody'd ever want to work with you. And I said, sir, I'm sorry you feel that way, but you're the type of customer that I don't want to work with either.
Yeah, and he made it impossible for you to do business with him. And you came at him with solutions and
right. And I had already talked to everyone else, and everyone else was on board. And it was more important to him to like win the conversation.
Yeah, to save face.
Yeah. Yeah. And the whole thing was his mistake.
Brought ego into business.
There you go. It's an ego trip, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had it just rung in my mind, so I'll tell the story real quick. I was at this business conference, and it pertains to this guy and wanting to win the conversation, right? And it's a little more of a negotiating, I guess would be the best way to put it. So they did this exercise. They said, look to the guy to your right, whatever, guy to your left, the person you're sitting next to, and you're going to arm wrestle him. Okay. And I had my best friend next to me. And so I look over at him, and he's 6'6", big guy. Oh. And I'm like, oh, great. This guy's going to crush me in an arm wrestle now. and there's, I don't know, 200 people in the room. And they say, whoever can pin the person next to them the most, I'll give them $100. Okay. And so I'm kind of like, all right, let's see how many times he can pin me. And so we put our arms up, and they say go, and we're kind of stalemate. I think he might have got me once or twice. And then they just, 60 seconds. And then they called it off. And they said, okay, who's got the most in here? And someone's like, I got 5. Someone's like, I got 10. And then someone's like, I got 96 or something crazy, right? And we're all like, what the heck? And so he's like, have you been through this demonstration before? And the guy's like, yeah, I know where you're going with this.
What did they team up, split the difference?
Exactly. So that's the point, is like, he said, hey, let me pin you as many times as I can in 60 seconds and I'll give you $40.
Hey, 40 is better than 0.
Right. And I'm sorry. So they just said, we'll split it 50-50. So then the guy even said, well, you can take this one step further and you can say, I'll give you 40. It's like, and then you're a win. And then they're still getting $40 for just being pinned over and over and over with an arm wrestle.
Yeah, and potentially they might be stronger than you, but because you initiated that, puts it in their mind of, you know what, something for nothing.
Exactly.
Versus that threat of getting nothing.
Yeah. So negotiating wise, it's helped me a lot to be like, it's not about winning the negotiation or winning the conversation. It's about both being ahead moving forward. Right. I mean, yeah, sometimes I want to win. Don't get me wrong. I still have an ego, but
yeah, I mean, there are places where, ego can be tempered and it's good for you.
Yeah.
In the martial arts academy, there are a lot of good places. So,
right. Have you been training martial arts for a while?
On and off my whole life.
Okay.
I wanted to be a Power Ranger and a Ninja Turtle my whole life. So.
Sure. I think we all did, right?
I mean, all the people I want to hang out with.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, Ninja Turtles was our thing. So we had 4 brothers and 4 Ninja Turtles.
And I had a lot of older cousins, so I mean, I remember growing up with an Ultimate Warrior WWF pillow that my cousin had when he was a kid.
Yeah.
When he got too old to slam that thing around, I was old enough for him to slam me around.
There you go.
So,
did he have siblings, older, younger siblings?
I have one older sibling. She's 3 years older than me. She lives in Wyoming.
Okay. That's one thing that, and I know it doesn't go apples to apples, but it's one thing that's different meeting people that grew up in other places. Because Utah, like 4, 5, 6 kids is fairly normal,
Mm-hmm.
And
to
then,
everywhere else, it's like
crazy.
Holy cow. You need a second minivan.
And I always wondered, I mean, a lot of it comes from the Mormon religion, but like me now, we have a 1-year-old. My wife and I have a 1-year-old. And I'm like having a hard time thinking we're going to have any more. And I just think like, man.
That might be a bit of the times as well. I mean, growing up in Southern California, I have a lot of friends who are, Hispanic and Catholic, and they have a lot of siblings as well. So it could just be, you and I are of the age now where we're, having kids. So it's much different than when our parents were having kids.
Yeah.
And it's much different than when their parents were having kids.
Right.
So the idea of how many children is necessary and, even acceptable is way different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my parents were married very young. And again, that's kind of a Mormon religion thing. My grandparents were not LDS, but they were married very young. I'm talking when I say my grandparents, I'm talking about my mom's family. Mm-hmm. I'm distant from my dad's side of the family.
That's fair.
So whenever I say like my aunts, uncles, grandparents, it's always my mom's side. Anyway, so
they're still your family.
Yeah. But I don't differentiate my grandparents because it's like my grandpa leg and then my grandparents.
Okay.
So, but it seems like it was more, I don't know. Do you think it's an education thing? I don't know. That's just hitting me. Like our generation was more pushed to get a degree, go to school. In Utah, it was go on a mission. And it just kind of delays that a little bit.
Yeah. And also I think one of the things that our generation is seeing is that our buck doesn't stretch as far. So we want to, like any parent, give our child the best possible future. And to some extent, when you start to spread that buck too thin, it's hard on the child.
Sure. So. Yeah. Well, and nowadays it's a household income where before it used to be the dad's income.
When my grandfather, Bill Richison III, came back from Korea, he could, be the only one working and supply generously for for 5 kids at a time.
Yeah.
So, you know,
It's different now.
Yeah, it's much different now.
It's crazy to think, like, I know people that their wives don't work. And I'm just like, how are you
What a
guys
blessing.
doing it?
What a blessing.
Yeah. I mean, good for them. I mean, I have an expensive lifestyle, I guess, if you want to put it that way. So that doesn't
I like
help.
nice things.
Yeah. That doesn't help at all. Luckily, my wife enjoys working. She's a nurse practitioner. She
Awesome.
went to school, wanted to go to school.
Thanks to your wife.
Yeah. All of her siblings went to school.
From that hard-working stock.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's the smartest person I know.
That's awesome.
But you know, like I said, I'm 32. We have a 1-year-old, and I'm like, geez, man, I couldn't imagine having 5 kids now. Like, I would be 70 when they're graduating high school. I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my in-laws spent 20 years having kids. There's 8 kids in my wife's family, and I just think, of course, my parents had 5 kids at a younger age than I am now. And I just think, man, that's crazy. And the money it would take, it seems like, to support that many people, it just doesn't seem possible now. I mean, I have friends that are doing it, don't get me wrong, but it's just a different lifestyle, I guess.
I mean, when you got mouths to feed, there's always ways.
Yeah.
But it's a grind. That's a hard grind. And at that point, if you're away from your family all day just to provide for them, they're not benefiting from you. You're not benefiting from them. They're just a separate family from you.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I know plenty of military guys who they put their heart and soul and their whole life, and they sacrifice their family life for the job because that's what it requires. But it takes a toll on the family life, and there's a really finite amount of time in your child's life where they want to spend time with you. You got to capitalize on that.
Yeah, I like that. That's something I've tried to be aware of. I mean, like I said, my son's only a year old, so I still got some time, but that's something I've tried to be aware of with work. There was a Jordan Peterson quote, and I don't have it written down, so I'll butcher it, but he basically talks about there will be high achievers out there in whatever their job is, whatever they choose to do. They'll be high achievers, and that will be their number one thing. That's the thing that they put the most time into, and it's impossible to be able to do that and still keep a family life and still keep being a parent and being all these things if you're that level of a high achiever. And I'm not saying I am, but I mean, I spend a lot of time with my businesses and work and podcasts and right. And so, like, there's times that I feel guilty that I'm taking that time away from William, my son, when I'm like, should I be there doing that? But I feel like with the podcast, it's a video journal, right?
It's a way of expanding knowledge.
Yeah. And so instead of writing a journal every night, he could go back and view these. I mean, these will always be out there. We're on every platform there is.
Conversations that his father had with random people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and like, heaven forbid something ever happened to me before he gets old enough to really spend time, he would have these that he could look back on and see who I am. So I don't know. That's all. It's been like a thing for me with the podcast since he was born.
Cementing your legacy is something that all people struggle with at some point or another. You know, cementing, what am I doing on this planet with the time I have? How do I make peace with that there's only a certain amount of time? People want to measure up to something. So, and being a parent is a tier 1 job. Like, it takes a lot. I'm not a parent, but I see the work that my friends put into it and how much heart and soul it takes. And it is really a lot on parents. So I commend you for when you raise functional members of society, and especially in this society that is not always functional.
Yeah.
Hey, power to you. If you raise the functional child, shout out to you.
Say, don't give me any kudos yet. Jury's still out on that kid.
Hey, I mean, you're doing the right things, it seems like.
Yeah, I have to commend my wife. She, I mean, she works full time. She's got a stressful job. She, like right now, we're here. She's on call with her job, and she has our son right now. And it's just like everything that she has to juggle to allow me to be who I am and do what I need to do. It's always meant a lot to me, and it's important to me, and it has to be there for me to be who I am and what I'm accomplishing and what I'm trying to accomplish. She has to play the role that she's playing. And I appreciate that. And I know she doesn't hear it enough, but hopefully she'll listen to this podcast and hear it.
Yeah. And every partnership requires give and take. And there have been probably more instances in my relationship with my partner that she's given.
Right.
So if it wasn't for my partner, I would have been probably 1,000 steps behind than I am right now.
Yeah. That's, when I was dating my wife, I have a friend. So Tyson's been on here a couple times, my buddy Tyson. His dad was going through school to be a therapist, and I was talking to him about my then girlfriend, right? And I was like, yeah, the best thing about, and it's kind of a cliche thing to say, right? I was like, the best thing about her is I feel like I'm a better person because I want to be a better person for her. And because she deserves that, right? And he was like, well, so you're saying it's her job to make you better. And I was like, well, no, I just want to be better. He's like, yeah, but for her, not for you. And I was like, well, is that a bad thing? And he's like, as long as you don't make it her job. And it kind of hit me and it stuck with me since he said that 11 years ago,
Yeah. And that's something that I wouldn't say that I've struggled with, but that me and my partner are always trying to make sure that it's not the other person's job, that the other person is evolving and growing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it was kind of a thing for me of well, then it shouldn't be her job or her stress. It should be me trying to be that person for myself. And then our relationship benefits from it, I guess would be the best way to put it. But yeah, I mean, I've had, I tell my friends and my brothers, and we've been married, we'll be 10 years at the end of the year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. I guess I should be congratulated because I don't know why she's still with me. So I'm doing something right, I guess. I always joke about, she had glasses when we were dating, right? And contacts. And then she got LASIK after we were married. And I'd tell everyone, I'm like, oh, I did that on purpose. I wanted her to have 20/20 after she'd already committed to me. Right. And, now I got off my track what I was going to say about her, but, I don't know
how wonderful she is.
Yeah. I mean, she probably hates it when I get on here and I talk about her every now and then, but I mean, it's just the truth. I couldn't do what I do without her, and it wouldn't be possible to do. And I think I would be like a ball of depression without being who I am now. And she allows that to happen. If that's the best way to put it.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just the truth. And it's in, it's hereditary. So my dad had committed suicide a few years ago.
Condolences.
Yeah. And so I know it's kind of there, the mental health, mental struggles. I've had, when I was younger, I've had panic attacks. I've had a couple bouts with depression, but not depressed, but I could feel it. But I was aware of it by the time I did feel it, of what it was. I saw my dad go through it for years. And so when it hit me a couple times, I'm like, oh, this must be depression. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
And
so many people are depressed, and I find myself often in depressed states, where the other day my doctor over at the VA was asking me questions and I was answering, and he was like, well, sounds like you're depressed. And I was like, I mean, I struggle with depression, but I'm fairly positive right now. I feel like I'm on an upswing. He's like, yeah, but everything you're telling me about your sleep and everything is telling me otherwise. So sometimes we don't know. Sometimes a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that they're struggling.
Sure. And that's a scary thing.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was like, and I'm not sure if I've told the story on here or not, but like I said, I watched my dad go through it a lot. He had some bipolar, definite depression later in his, later in his life. When we were kids, he was great, coached all of our sports teams, was the example you would want, as a young man. And so I got to give him kudos for that. Right. But it just seemed like, well, anyway, so my story. So I remember one day I was just at home one night, and my wife and I, were been married a couple of years. Everything was going good. We rarely argue, rarely, even have disagreements. And I was at my house one day, and I was just going through the repetitiveness of work. And it was when I was working for the post office. I started having back issues. I was in pain all the time. I was getting to the point where I wasn't at the point yet, but it got to the point where I was like living on painkillers to get through the day. Right. So I wasn't at that
road.
Yeah, I wasn't at that point yet, but I remember I was sitting in my house, and it just like hit me. I just felt like just a cloud. Everything just felt slow motion and like blurry, and like, not that I saw blurry, but it just felt
in
like
that gray.
Yeah. And if, I just like, I probably just don't feel good. I'm probably a little sick, something coming on, went to bed, woke up the next day, went to work, still felt that way. Everything was just slow. Like I just wasn't processing everything. And it was a Saturday. And so I got home that night, and I called my mom, and I was like, I think I'm depressed. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, if I could describe what depression is, it's what's going on right now, like the last couple of days. And I kind of talked to her for, about it for a minute, and she was trying to line me up with a couple doctors and medications and these things. And like, I didn't want to go down that road.
It's a scary road. Depression and mental health is very stigmatized.
Yeah.
And it causes a lot of roadblocks for people in their own mind as far as getting treatment.
Mm-hmm. Well, and my dad, I watched him, like the different medications, he would be up and then he'd be down, and then he'd be, and he could, and I know people get leveled out, and so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I just watched my dad personal.
Medications can be very helpful for some people, but it's also very difficult for some people to dial down exactly what they need. And for some people, medication isn't the only thing that needs to be changed or implemented into their lifestyle. Sure.
Yeah. And I remember I talked to my mom a little bit, and I said, I don't know if I want to go down that route yet. I'm sure I'm going to shake it, and I was kind of like, a little bit of pride was coming up, like, no, I'm going to be fine. I'm just having a bad day. And because I remember the next day was Sunday, and my wife and I mean, we try to go to church regularly. There's often things going on, often football games are on, and maybe I don't want to go, or you know what I mean? So there are different reasons, but I remember we went to church that week, and I believe in my religion, but I don't necessarily know that it was because I was at church, right? So I'm not saying that. But I remember I was just sitting there in church, and like it just kind of hit me, and I was like, man, like I've got everything kind of going the way I thought it would, I mean, I've got a happy marriage. Everything seems to be going fine. Like, why am I depressed? Like, why would you have these feelings? And I remember I just kind of like closed my eyes and just started thinking about everything I was grateful for. And, my job, I mean, for the most part, I do have pretty good health. Like my back's kind of giving up on me, but the rest of me is doing okay. Like I said, my wife, my mom's a huge part of my life, siblings. And I just kind of started going through this like gratitude list for myself. And I remember I just opened my eyes and looked up, and they were in the middle of a song, and I felt like I had kind of like shut off everything and just went through this little gratitude. and opened my eyes and kind of looked around, and we left church, and I felt like I had just stepped out of that.
Your funk.
Yeah. And I know that's not the case for a lot of people when it comes to this stuff.
I'm glad you had that experience. I
Yeah.
mean, for a lot of people, religion does satisfy a lot of those things. And I'm not saying it was like you just because it's your religion.
Right.
It wasn't that. But, yeah, it was very fortunate that you were able to come to that conclusion that quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that, why am I depressed? I have such a great life. And they dog on themselves even more because, I should be grateful. I'm doing these people who love me a disservice because I'm not my best self. And you get into this pitfall of, dogging on yourself. I call it dogging on yourself.
Yeah. No, I understand that. Yeah. And it just goes another step down.
And it is very easy to trip down the very steep flight of stairs that is depression.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know you wanted to talk about it a little bit, so I hope I kind of gave us a segue into it, but, being military background, I don't know if you have friends, I'm sure you do, that maybe struggle with it. Maybe you do. What do you want to bring up? What do you want to talk about with it? Or did we already kind of cross it?
So, I'm very passionate about mental health issues, specifically for veterans, but all people deserve to have solid mental health. With the current aspects of the world, politics, and this virus that's happening, the world is a very tumultuous place, and mental health is struggling for a lot of people. So right now, before we start, I want to say the number for the Veteran Suicide Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. If you're anybody out there and you're having suicidal ideations, give them a call.
That's awesome. We'll clip that too and put that out there. That's awesome.
Yeah, there are a lot of resources out there. I can't talk on 10, 15, 20 years ago, but in the time that I've been out of the military, I have seen things be less stigmatized as far as mental health, and I've seen the avenues for veterans to get help multiply.
Which is, and I think because my brother, I believe he's got a little PTSD. I don't know if he'd admit it, right? And he'd probably be mad that I even brought his name up on here, but it's important to me. And, being in the gun world and the safes and the holsters and that kind of thing, I feel like I get to play a little bit of a role. We've donated money. We've done fundraisers. Any military law enforcement gets discounts. We kind of try to do what we can, but as far as the mental health and suicide stance of the military, dude, breaks my heart. It really does.
Yeah, for a while there, and even when I was in, it was kind of a double-edged sword where everyone in your command is saying, hey, it's not, or it's a strength to seek help. But as soon as you seek help, we're pulling your deployment clearances, and
so then you're penalized for it.
Not so much penalized, but they do things to keep you out of the loop. They want to make sure that you're not a liability. Okay. And rightfully so. It's
sure.
An important job.
Yeah, I've only watched a couple episodes, so I'm not going to act like this is my favorite show, but there's a SEAL Team 6 show. I think it's called SEAL Team 6. Or SEAL Teams. I think it's just SEAL Team.
Got the guy from Bones in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I watched an episode the other day, and that was kind of the top, like an underlying topic about it, was one of the guys' mental health. And I just thought, I guess it's important that they put it out there, as a TV show, as entertainment. But I wish they would have, even at a commercial, just mention hey, this is some resources you can have. This is something you can do if you're struggling with this. I guess I would imagine that military people watch shows like that, and so
Maybe some. I haven't seen that show
Sure.
personally, but military guys either love shows like that or they just complain about it because it's unrealistic
Sure.
or they,
Yeah.
whatever. But any time that we talk about mental health issues, I think it's important. Yeah, we can definitely stem it in a really bad way, like, Full Metal Jacket. Like, it's a bad way to introduce people to military mental health, but there are good ways that we can talk about it and ways that are beneficial for people. It is a difficult subject to talk about, but it's very important, and talking about it is the first step.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about San Francisco before we had jumped on. And I was surprised by the homeless population out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I know there's a lot of veterans that are homeless. I don't know. I mean, I never thought about, like, I would never run for like any type of office, but when I see stuff like that going on, I just think like, gosh, there's got to be resources out there that we can help these people. And I feel like some of the places around the country, it's almost like in place against them. And maybe the way to put it is, well, I think you would kind of put it as it's easier for them to survive in those focused areas. Is that a good way to put it?
Yeah, in a lot of those metropolitan areas, it's overwhelming. So there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
So you can set up these little communities and they're not going to rile you out.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, rather than face reality, decide to go internal. They just push away from reality and they just survive however they can.
When I wonder, even if there was, I mean, say there was a direct line of help for a couple of these, like grab 10 of them.
Some people don't want help.
Exactly. And so it's like, I guess
and
you can.
Unfortunately, we've allowed people to stray so far down that rabbit hole that a lot of them won't get help or wouldn't care to get help. Or at this point, I don't want to say they're too far gone, but a lot of them have done irreparable damage to themselves.
There was a story about and I can't remember who it was, but there was an NBA player a little bit ago on the east side of the United States that I'm sure he was kind of like he was popular. I just can't recall his name. He'd played, retire. I don't know if he'd retired or just didn't get put on a team, right? But he was like one of the stars of one of the teams for a little stretch. And then he was homeless. And he got all the way to the point where he was homeless. I think he was kind of doing drugs. I think he maybe even got arrested with drugs. I could be wrong on that.
Very commonly linked.
Yeah, and it made headlines. And then some of the players that had played with him got him off the streets, trying to kind of give him a place to live. I think the team even donated money to him to try and do something. And I don't want to downplay that. I think that's great that they were trying to help him. But I'm like, that should be the home team of the U.S. trying to help all of these veterans. And I guess what do you do when they don't need or they don't want to take the help? What I was going to say was, like, if you took 10 of them, how many of them would try and go accept the help that was reached out to them? And that, I don't know the number to that, but I would imagine it's more than half. But I mean, I don't know.
Just personally, and this is even with younger veterans, a lot of them just don't care to go through the process of working with the VA, of navigating that. I think it's becoming a lot better, but there's still a lot of veterans who just don't trust the VA. They get out, they don't trust the government. For whatever reason, they feel like they didn't get their square deal.
Sure. But and that's what I mean. So let's do it outside of the VA. Let's do it outside of that. And I mean, I don't know. Maybe there are charities set up for that I'm unaware of. I don't know.
So I can't complain with the care that I've gotten from the VA. When I lived in California, I, for the most part, didn't have any health concerns, even though I was doing a lot of martial arts. I probably should have seen the doctor a few more times than I did. But when I was living in California, I didn't really need the VA that much. But since I've been here in Southern Utah, the VA system has been phenomenal for me. You know, I see a therapist here in town once a week, never paid a dime. So whatever I need, the VA is very helpful. And I feel like maybe here, because we are in such a secluded area, Southern Utah is a very secluded area, we have a group that care a lot. The people down at the VA clinic, they're awesome people. I've never felt like I was just, you know, a customer.
Another number.
Yeah, exactly. One of the receptionists there is a Marine. Every time I go in, he, you know, dabs me up and we talk about, you know, just chew the fat about the what's going on in the Marine Corps these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's how it should be, though, right?
Yeah.
So is it, and again, I don't know the answer.
It's not always that way, though.
Yeah, but
California
why?
can be, I think, again, it comes down to the sizes of these places.
They're just overwhelmed?
Yeah, the VA system is a little funky. It's each state kind of runs their VA on its own. When I first got out of the Marine Corps, I was up in Alaska, and that's where I first did my all my VA checkups and stuff, and they were very awesome. It was a brand new facility. And then I went to California, put in my paperwork to get seen by them. Didn't get a call back for about a year and a half. So then I come here to Utah, needed some medical help as soon as I needed it. I hadn't even checked in. I was kind of neglecting that stuff just for one reason or another. Hadn't gotten to it. But as soon as I needed help, they, you know, moved me to the forward part of the list and took care of me. So
I was going to say, so maybe this should be a federal thing, but I don't know if that's the answer either. I don't know. I guess
it's
going
above my pay grade, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think, like, what even stops, you know, a group of people or business owners or whatever locally just coming together and trying to take care of it. Money, exactly. I see, and it's very seldom in St. George, right? But you'll see guys standing on the corner every now and then holding the sign, homeless vet, whatever. And like, as a business owner, as a small business owner, brick and mortar store, like, and I have done this before. I have pulled over and been like, hey, dude, I've, like, not that I feel like you should have to re-earn what's due to you, but like, if you want to come over and help me out in the store for a day, you know, I can kick you some money or something.
Hey, and that comes with some dignity, some money in your pocket. You know,
right.
That may be exactly what that person needs at that time. You know, some people don't want a handout. A lot of these homeless veterans are homeless because they don't want to ask for help. They don't want to be seen as needing a handout.
I mean, is that just a pride thing, or?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and is it?
We are the biggest.
It's just
bunch
drilled
of
into you.
prideful animals. It is, and I can't speak for the other branches because I are Marine.
Yeah,
but
I are Marine. But that's what I think is, like, are you just? I mean, you take care of yourself. I don't know, because then you know there's the brotherhood and everything around it too, and I'm just like.
So I ran into a problem of not reaching out to my brothers and sisters when I got out, and I would get out, or when I got out, I would call them up, and for whatever reason, you know, the conversation would be cut short. You know, oh, we got a emergency formation, and yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Cut our conversation short. And it got to the point where I felt like I was a burden to them because I was getting in the way of their life, or I was taking away from their readiness.
Got you.
So for one reason or another, that brotherhood, I mean, I can call up any one of my buddies from the Marine Corps, and it's like not a minute has gone by. We're cracking jokes and everything's great. But we will allow that separation to happen. And a lot of veterans let that separation, that lifeline from their battle buddies, they'll allow that to fizzle away for too long. And then they're self-isolating.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe, like you're saying, I'm glad to hear that at least in St. George that it's better than it is other places. My father-in-law is retired Navy, and I, for the most part, I hear good things about what, he's had to go to the VA and get taken care of for whatever reason, right? Yeah, my mind just keeps on going back to San Francisco and just seeing sign after sign, and in most, maybe I shouldn't say that. I was going to say, you can usually tell when some of these guys are military, right? And you just walk by them, but I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know if the answer is give them $20. I don't know if the answer is give them a job.
I was recently down in Phoenix for a gun show a month or two ago, and it's like if I give 50 cents to every homeless vet I see, I'm going to be broke. And it makes me sad, but I have to shut off my heart to it sometimes. But I try and, in other aspects, in other areas of my life, like right now, do what I can to make a difference for my people.
Well, and I think just reading the hotline right there, I hopefully that'll get out and touch somebody. I did have a guy once stop by my store. He had just said, "Hey man, I'm trying to make some money to get a bus ticket back home. I'm from, I think he said Vegas." And so I was like, "Well, how much is it?" And I don't remember how much it was. That's not the point.
Yeah.
So he was like, I said, "Well, how much is it?" And he told me, and he said, you got any work or anything I can do to earn $30 or whatever it was?
Yeah, X amount of dollars.
Yeah. And I was like, "Well, what are you good at? What can you do?" He said, "I'll do anything." And I kind of jokingly,
Not the most helpful thing to say.
I said, kind of jokingly, I was like, "Well, all those," because on my store, we're at the end of the building where there's multiple retail stores. And so I've got like one wall that's completely windows. And so like jokingly, I was like, "Yeah, dude, those windows haven't been cleaned for a while." And I kind of smiled at him to let him know I was just kind of messing with him. And he's like, "You got a squeegee?" And I was like, "I can probably get you something." And so he's like, "Dude, I would be glad to do that for you if that's what gets me back home." And I went out and I was kind of talking to him and helping him while he was doing it. And then he had told me, "Yeah, dude, I was in the Army for a little bit. I was in this. I'm just trying to get my life back together. And I've got some family down there that's willing to help me. So I'm trying to get back down there." And that was kind of the whole story that came back around. And I didn't know he was military when I, signed him up to wash my windows. But I don't know, it kind of made me feel like hopefully I can make a difference for this guy to get back down there. And I don't know, like I'll never know whatever happened to him. But
And I think regardless of that guy being a military veteran, that act of kindness, so admirable. It's like we need things like that for this world to not defeat us.
yeah, and part of being a business owner and having, I call them subcontractors, but having employees, that's part of what drives me to do it. Being able to supply a job where these guys are going to earn either extra income or their main income, that's what's fulfilling for me, to know that, I'm helping them out. It also brings on a lot of stress knowing that, parts of their livelihood depend on me, keeping business there for them to work at. Right.
That stress can be a lot.
Yeah.
The average lifespan of an alpha wolf of a pack is 4 to 5 years. The average lifespan of a wolf in that pack that never reaches that alpha status is about 9 years.
Really?
That time in front, leading the charge, that takes a heavy, heavy load on someone. And when you take the brunt of that for so long, it will grind you down.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I feel like there has to be more of a purpose, right? Like I think when you first get into it, it's either entrepreneurship. I mean, it's either like, I don't want to work for someone. You think you're going to work less hours, and it's never the case. And my thing is that I didn't think I was a great employee, mainly because I don't have a problem having confrontation, right? And most bosses don't enjoy that. But it was kind of like I saw an opportunity and I took it when I did. But going back to like the business owner part, I know that there's businesses around town because I've got them to do fundraisers for different situations. And we had Derick Staley on here, and I've watched him, and we're actually going to have him on again. Funny, I kind of mentioned him, but, so his brother, just ended his own life, and he was a Marine. And I'll let him kind of come on and talk about that when he's ready to. He has reached out to us. We're just kind of trying to line it up. But what I was getting at is he's his whole family, they're a family of service. He's got four of his brothers were in military, one of the branches. But not only that, like him and his dad, it's important to them to have a community and a tight community. And when we got the news that his brother had passed, we set up a GoFundMe for him, and I was kind of writing the body to it, and that was a lot of what kept going through my mind was these guys have raised so much money and been there for so many other families, and they do like a Christmas party every year and raise money for families. They own a pawn shop, is one of their main businesses, and he's given away multiple items to raffles and different things to raise money for families. And I was glad that I could be a part of it to kind of pay them, well, not pay them back, but
contribute.
And show them that, hey man, you guys have paid it forward and now it's our turn, to do what we can to help you out.
Yeah. With every long-lasting institution, new hands have to come in and take hold of it to drag it forward.
Yeah.
Either drag it or push it. But it's awesome that you're able to contribute to that. Yeah.
Well, and I think like we do like barbecues at our store every now and then. So we have Switch Point that's right across the street from our retail store, which is like a homeless aid business, I guess. I don't know how to put it, but they aid a lot of the homeless population in our neighborhood. And more often than not, when we do barbecues, and it's all free, right? We just supply it for everyone. We'll get more of people coming in and out of Switch Point than we will like actual customers that are going to spend $3,000 on a safe, right? And I've told the story before, but one of the girls came up to me one day and she got a hamburger or whatever. And she's like, are you sure that the people that are going to want free food are the people that can afford a $3,000 safe? And it kind of made me like rethink for like a half a second. And then I turned and told her, I said, it's not about making the sales. It's about, we're here to help the community. We want to be a resource for people. And if that's something as small as, for me, supplying $1 hamburger for people, I mean, that's a win for us. And we can get out and meet the community and meet people. And that's a big thing for me. Community is a big thing for me. When my dad had passed, we had a lot of people, and my dad was, he was a UPS driver for like 20 something years. And he was, a leader in most of the church callings he had. He was never bishop, but he was a leader in everything else. He was always the highest ones in everything. So a lot of people knew him, and it was a community effort. kind of around our family when he had passed, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so I feel like, now it's our turn. It's my turn. It's Derick Staley's turn. And it should be a lot of other people's turn.
And that passing of the torch can be daunting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always been blessed to have income. I've always worked a lot for it, but I just feel like, I've been blessed a lot, and income's been a part of that. And so I have a responsibility now to pass that along, and try and help out as many people as I can, right? Whether that's they work for me, whether that's a hamburger, whether that's a GoFundMe page that takes me 20 minutes to set up, but, might change a family's life that has done nothing but serve other people. I don't know. And taking that back to the military side of it, I guess that's why I was drawn to that when I saw, so you had messaged us saying you kind of wanted to touch over that. And I feel like it's something that I haven't really been able to touch yet because I just don't know, the direction to take it.
And it's a tricky subject to bring up because everyone's situation is different. And the reason for this trauma is different for everyone. What you brought up post-traumatic stress earlier. A lot of people link that term directly to military members, but there are more civilians that suffer from post-traumatic stress than military veterans.
Sure.
I mean, my buddy grew up in Houston and grew up in a really gang-infested area and saw awful things growing up. He had PTSD long before he ever put the uniform on.
Yeah, I guess I never really realized it was a real thing until I was 18 and I had a horse fall over on me and shattered my foot. Okay.
Yikes.
And I mean, I was 3 months till I walked and 6 months till I could really run on it. And I don't remember what it was. I think I had a stomach illness one night. And my then girlfriend, now wife, took me to the hospital. And when I hit the emergency room, it like something took, like fear, just 100% fear took me over. And I was hyperventilating. My muscles were starting to cramp up. My fingers were all like contorted.
Panic attack.
Full on panic attack.
Oh, they're the worst.
And that's when I was like, man, I might have some like PTSD from being in an emergency room. So when I shattered my foot, they told me they're taking me in for emergency surgery. I may lose my foot or I could bleed out.
That's a very traumatic
situation.
situation.
So I guess I should have mentioned that. So that's where it came from.
Yeah, and that's very traumatic on its own. And that's, if we break it down, post-traumatic stress. It's like not post-combat stress, post-battlefield stress. It's post-traumatic stress. What's trauma to you? It's a very broad word.
Yeah.
I mean, is trauma just physical, or is trauma being told day after day by your support figures that you're useless and that the world would be better off without you? That's very traumatic in its own right, too.
Yeah, and
it affects different parts of your body, but it's still trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all relative to your surroundings and who you are and what you've been told or experienced I guess I hadn't really thought about it that way. Like, I knew it wasn't just military, right?
And sometimes people are like, what right do I have to say I have post-traumatic stress? Because it's so linked to military experiences that, like, I've had people that I talk to that never served in the military almost apologizing to me about their stress and their trauma because I say, yeah, it sounds like you got post-traumatic stress. Oh, no, it's not. It can't be that. I wasn't in the military. Bro, you didn't have to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, maybe it needs to be even more normalized than
the stigma
it used to be.
Of mental health kills more people than their mental health problems. So many mental health problems can be worked on and fixed, and it is very hard to completely break a person, but it will get there quickly if things go untreated.
Yeah.
So a little bit of help can go a long way with someone.
It seems like we have so much information, we have so much stress, we have so much just sensory overload.
In this day and age, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's so much sensory overload. When I was over at Dixie State, I was in my math class doing a test, and just all the keyboards clicking overloaded me. I started sweating, just dripping sweat, and the teacher was sitting behind me watching people, and I could not handle it. Just right now thinking about it, I'm getting a little itchy. But I just clicked A. Just got out of that classroom as fast as I could. And for everyone, sensory overload can be a lot. And we live in a world where we're constantly being bombarded with advertisements and TikTok and Instagram. And I mean, I fall into those pitfalls myself.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's hard not to. I mean, they got some of the most brilliant minds figuring out how to get you hooked.
Right. Yeah, it's all like an addiction is what they're basing it all after.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You said something and I should have wrote it down. I'm usually pretty good at writing down thoughts of when other people are talking, but
I might be able to remember it again.
yeah. So it's kind of piggyback off of that, and I don't know how to handle it. So my son, 1 year old, right? We just had a family party. Had a bunch of family in town, so we all got together. And I'm not one that loves like big groups. Public speaking is like just, I mean, I think they say that people fear public speaking more than they fear death. I'm pretty sure there's a study out there that states that.
Yeah, death is final.
Yeah.
If you say something stupid
Good point.
on a live chat, I mean, thank God for editing, but if you say something stupid on live chat, that's forever. There ain't no getting away from that nowadays.
Exactly.
So death is final for me.
Yeah, I like, even if I get in a big group of people I know, I'll be the guy just kind of sitting there to myself, just overthinking. And I think part of it is when there's multiple conversations going on, like even a restaurant, it'll get me. I'll sit there and like my mind just starts like drifting off and listening to all of these different, and I just can't handle it. Like it gets too much for me. Anyway, so we're at this party and my son is just shut down. He's staring at the floor. I'm holding him right in the beginning, and there's all the noise, all the conversations, everyone talking. And my brother had said, he looks like he has social anxiety. And whether he does or not, my thought went to, like, let's say he does. Is that something we should be telling him when he's 3 years old, 4 years old? Is that something that if you're aware of, you can work on it and maybe he grows out of it? I have that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I was unaware of it until, like, I didn't know there was a name for it until high school.
Anxiety.
Yeah.
Even people my parents' age, my parents are amazing when I talk to them about my mental health struggles and stuff. Even when they're the focus of my mental health struggles, they're very accommodating and loving and awesome. But there are a lot of people, even my parents' age, probably even closer to my age, our age, that when you say anxiety, they immediately think, oh, this snowflake, or they associate weakness to you, when road rage is a form of anxiety, believe it or not. I mean, anxiety brings you to a point of fight or flight.
Yeah.
For some people, that road rage incident, they get mad and you. For some people, they get really freaked out and they pull off the side of the road and they sit there and they breathe into their bag for a little bit. But those situations are real for everyone.
Yeah.
And some people just, the terms. For me, the terms are what I see the most stigma with. You know, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. Post-traumatic stress, we've documented it here in America since the Revolutionary War. Back in the day, they used to call it soldier's heart. You know, oh, he's suffering from some soldier's heart. You know, give him some time. In World War I, they called it shell shock.
Yep.
You know, now in Vietnam, jungle fever. You know, now we have post-traumatic stress. All the same stuff. Generationally, the soldier's experience isn't different. Technology changes. To quote Fallout, war never changes. But the way that we go about taking care of the warfighter it's got to be in the forefront, because humans aren't machines. You know, in the military, we got very used to when machines can't be maintained anymore, we just get rid of them. Now we're starting to realize people aren't machines. We can't just say, hey, thanks for your service.
Yeah. Next up.
Yep. Next 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Come on down.
Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know the best way to handle it. And maybe, I mean, nor should I. I'm a part-time safe salesman, but it makes me think of having a kid of my own, you know, where I've missed out on a lot of opportunities because I was scared to talk in that situation. Mm-hmm. Or, like my wife's a lot better at this than I am, because she's been skydiving. They do rappelling, you know, canyons, rock climbing, you know, all of that stuff, more kind of extreme than me playing baseball and, you know, basketball growing up. And so fear for her is different than it is for me.
Yeah.
And she has less fear than or she's
conventional fear.
Yeah. She's able to step out of that where it cripples me, if that makes sense.
And part of that just comes from doing.
Yeah.
And I think, like what you said with your son, not knowing whether or not to bring it to his attention or whatnot. I feel like with all children, there's a certain time frame where we should try and protect them from the realities of the world. Right. Yes, you want them to grow. Yes, you want them to be functional. But as long as they're happy and they're healthy and they're not causing strife, to a certain age, they don't need to understand the realities of the world. We, as the caregivers, the parents, we have to create an environment that allows them to safely experience the world. And if your son has, you know, some anxiety, there are things that you can do to make it easy for him, you know. And it's going to be different for your son. It's going to be different for you. It's going to be different for me. But that's why mental health and talking about these things are so important, because you will learn how your son best interacts with the world, and you'll be able to facilitate him being in situations that he can grow from the most completely.
Yeah, it just seems like when my brother had said that, it like bothered me. Like I was like, don't label that. Like that was my first instinct, right?
Like it's a weakness.
Yeah.
And it's completely understandable. For a lot of people, mental health is very stigmatized, you know? If someone came to you and said, hey, my son has leukemia, would you be like, weakling?
Sure, yeah. That's a good point. It's just a different type that people react differently to. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you would, well, I guess to answer I kind of laughed at it and I probably shouldn't have, but.
No, because and you can laugh at it because it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And for me, as someone who, like, I'm not a mental health professional. Someday I'd like to be. But I'm just a guy that has my own struggles that I know it works for me, and I can see what other people struggle with as well. And one of the biggest things as a community, as a veteran community, is we don't talk about it. There are a lot of people in the veteran community that do talk about it. I'm far from the first, and I will never be the last. So,
I mean, that's step one.
yeah, step one is absolutely talking about it. And if you're someone who thinks you're having issues with depression or suicidal ideations, those need to be brought up. And on the flip side, if you're someone and you think someone that you care about is depressed or has suicidal ideations, you have to bring it to them. You have to. You don't want to be the person that thinks, maybe homeboy isn't right. Maybe he's got a little bit of, but I don't want to intrude on his personal life. And, well, you intruding on his personal life might save his life.
Yeah. Yeah.
He might feel like nobody cares.
There's a commercial on TV going around. It's kind of like that. It's like this awkward, hey, how are you? Are you okay? And they kind of like, in the culmination at the end of it, they're like, hey, we need to talk. You just seem a little off. How are you doing? And they kind of just bluntly.
And honestly, that's the best way. Don't dilly dally with it.
Yeah.
I've had a friend straight up be like, yo, are you okay? Are you thinking about killing yourself or hurting yourself? And it took me for a second. I was like, whoa, no, man, what's up? But that's better than him, being like, hey, man, you okay? And me being like, yeah, because I don't want to get into it. Because I don't want to address the fact that, hey, I might.
Well, and it's like, it's not awkward until you make it awkward type of thing. So if someone comes in and they're all shy about it and awkward, then yeah, I think that would close the door more than, opening up any conversation.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm blessed with being blunt. So I have no problem coming in and just, saying what I believe. So,
and being blunt and being untactful are completely different things.
Right.
So there's a way to navigate a situation sensitively and bluntly.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully I mix those enough. You'll have to ask my friends. Maybe they'll have a different answer than me. It was like in high school, it seemed like you loved me or you hated me. Like you either understood who I was and that I cared about you, or you just didn't get it and you didn't like me.
I seem to have a very polarizing personality. So,
yeah.
For a couple of reasons.
I don't know, man. I'll take that over beating around the bush. Like I said, just tell me what's going on. Like my employees, what can I do to help you? What are you struggling with? Okay, well, I don't know the answer to that. What can we do, to make this easier for you? And I'm not like, oh, it's okay, you're doing great. Like, I'm not that guy. I'm just like, oh, you're struggling with that? How do we fix it?
Yeah.
What do you need from me to help you succeed in that? And I think that's helped me a lot having employees, because I've had like one or two that it's been my fault, and I've tried to think about their feelings or coddle them or fix all the problems for them, and then now it's becoming my job to fix all the problems. And I don't know, I've found, at least in my relationships, it's a lot easier for me just to, I guess my word is, be blunt, right? But yeah, be tactful and be blunt. Like, I still care about you, but we need to solve this problem.
Yeah, and there have been plenty of times in my life when I've been maybe like you, a little too blunt, but as I get older and I'm learning how to speak and navigate these situations and the brevity of these situations, you learn how to talk to people.
Yeah, I think now that I think about it, I think the best way for me to describe how I am is I'm blunt, but it's coming from a place that I want both of us to succeed, And
Absolutely.
so like I want us to both be in a better place when we're done with this conversation, type of thing.
And that's the important part.
Yeah. Yeah, I had thought about this, so I just want to mention it too, but when we were talking about calling someone, seeing how they're doing, checking on people, I had this kind of an experience. It was kind of an experiment for me to That's a bad way to put it after I tell the story, but I meant it, but it was an experiment. In my mind, I thought, like, me and my brothers are fairly close. We're all 2 years apart. And one day I text them all individually, and I was just said, "Hey man, love you." And every one of them called me, like boom, 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 boom. They all called me, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And they're like, "Are you okay? Are you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. What's up?" And they're like, "Well, I just got this weird text from you." And I'm like, "Why is that weird, man?" Like, I just felt like I needed to tell you that I love you, man. You know,
because you don't say it as often as
right.
you should.
And so that's what it was for me. It was like, okay, I guess I need to, and it's like, "Hey man, happy birthday, love you." Like, that's usually when I would say it, not just out of the blue, right? And so it was kind of a lesson for myself and also a lesson to be like, why do you guys think something's wrong with me when I tell you I love you?
A lot of people, if people don't hear it a lot from you, they might think that might be the last thing you say to them.
I think that's kind of that was obviously the feeling I got when they called me.
I've gotten a random, "I love you, bro. I hope you're doing all right. I'm proud of what you're doing." That was it. And I hadn't talked to this guy in a while, and I'm like, "Boss, I gotta take like 15 to unforeseen amount of future. I gotta see what this is about." And he was just, had a couple cocktails and just was feeling lovey. And I love showing the homies love. People don't show enough love to each other, I think.
Agree.
And men definitely do it a lot more than women. We dog on each other, and we don't show each other enough fraternal love, I think. In some areas, it's, some groups are better than others, but yeah, I think reaching out to your friends and just letting them know that, you appreciate their role in your life is important. I'll definitely have spells in my life where I call it going internal, where I don't reach out to other people. I kind of just stick to myself and wallow in my own whatever I'm struggling with. And very often it's a loved one reaching out and, cracking that mold that I've allowed to settle on myself.
Is there someone in particular that seems to read that better than others? I'm just curious.
Oh, my partner.
Yeah.
She knows it before I do. She's so amazing. Like, she'll recognize me being anxious about things before I know it, and she'll, like a parent, steer me away from certain situations that she knows I can't handle during certain times. I would be dead if it wasn't for my partner right now. She has saved me on multiple occasions. Literally, she saved me. In August, I was in the middle of school doing summer semester. Those semesters are super packed. I was also working full-time at the time. So, full-time school schedule, full-time work schedule. At the time, my cousin Jesse had just committed suicide. So a lot of stressors. And I wasn't really taking care of my physical health because of it. Really wasn't taking care of my mental health. But long story short, on the way home from dinner, I was drinking an icy or a slushy or something. I forget what brand it was. And I think to myself, I'm getting brain freeze. And I say that to my partner. I say, "Oh, babe, I'm getting brain freeze." And it's the last thing I remember. I passed out. Well, not passed out. I lost consciousness. I didn't fall asleep. I lost consciousness. My brain just shut off. The brain freeze triggered something in my brain mixed with a heart condition that I didn't know I had at the time. I just lost consciousness for about 40 seconds. Just was doing 80 at the time, cruise control, and went off and hit a guardrail, and she dragged us back onto the side of the road, was able to navigate us off to the side of the road. I woke up on the side of the road with her, obviously upset, freaking out, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on? Why are you upset?" Like, relax. Almost like, it bugged that she was being hysterical.
Yeah.
And it's not realizing that I almost just killed us.
Right.
So well, to answer your question, my partner recognizes it every time, and she has always been a constant advocate for me continuing to get help, continuing to evolve in my understanding of my limitations and my triggers, the things that make it difficult for me to function.
Yeah, my mom has always been very in tune. I think with all of us, but with me, I mean, I can't speak for my siblings, but she's always been very in tune for me. And it's my wife, not at her fault. I've always been steady. I've always been, work 6-7 days a week. And so I never, for a long time, at least in my opinion, I guess she can come on one day and correct me if she wants to, but I always felt like I was pretty stable, and I mean, I don't feel like I complained a whole lot about my mental health. And it was actually right before, it was when Mallory and I were talking about starting this podcast up. It was a couple weeks before that. And I was just taking on a lot. And it was Mother's Day. Yeah, it was Mother's Day. That's what triggered this whole thing, right? I was the night before Mother's Day, I was just in a downer, and I never let her see that side of me. I would just push through it. I would push through it.
Put up the shield.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm the stable guy, right? Like I shoulder everything. That was kind of,
got to put on that cape.
Yeah. Well, in whether I did it well or not, I felt like I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the night before, I think I just went to bed early, and I was just like, the next day, Mother's Day, she comes out, in the morning, whatever. I got nothing for her. I have, nothing to show my appreciation for her being the mother of my child. And that's what put me over. And then I felt bad because I was like making it about me, right? And I sat on the couch and I just started crying. And I was like, I just don't know what else to do. Like I'm broken, And she came down and sat down, and I could tell that she was like, dude, I've never seen you like this, right? And so we kind of talked, and I told her, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like it's not even a funk. Like I'm worse than that. I'm not doing very well. And it took me a couple of days to kind of come out of it. But so what I was saying was, like, she's always been able to, move forward in school, move forward in her career. Like we built a house last year, and I pretty much took care of all of it. I took care of the loans. My brother and I wired the whole thing. Like, I mean, I had taken on a lot, and I was just a stable person through the whole thing, and just getting it done. Mm-hmm. And so in 10 years, she's never seen me really like break down like that. And I mean, because I haven't, I guess, right? Like I had a mild breakdown months after my dad had, my mom and dad had divorced. Him and I ended things on terms that we never spoke again. And I was shouldering everything. I was being, the stable person for my mom, the stable one for my little sister, trying to shield them from everything that was going on with my dad mentally. And that from then until, 6 months ago or whenever Mother's Day was, I had been pretty stable. I had my mental health in check. I was aware of it. everything that had happened with my dad, years later and his suicide. Like, I was aware of my mental state the whole time. And then this night I just broke down. And since then, this is the point of this whole long story. Since then, my wife has been a lot more aware of where I'm at mentally. But I mean, she's the one that sees it, she knows who I am 100%.
Oh yeah.
She's taken that. My mom knew who I was 100%, and now my wife's taken that torch, right? Like, even my buddies, like, as close as I am to a couple of my buddies, like, they still don't see that 100% of who I am, right? And I know I'll get a text from one of them. He'll be like, I know exactly who you are, right?
I'm going to have a few of those when I take my phone off airplane mode.
But I don't know, man. I guess I like talking about it on here because of the stigma around it. And I feel like you can still have goals and you can still achieve goals and have these struggles. And I think people need to see and hear that.
And everybody does have these struggles.
Yes.
There's not a single person in this world that doesn't feel melancholy, doesn't feel sadness, that doesn't get overwhelmed in situations. We all have our limit, and this world knows how to push us to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's part of it. That's part of growth. That's part of, there's Justin Prince. He's a local guy, entrepreneur, speaker. He does sales, over $1 billion in sales. Anyway, he's a good TikTok follow if anyone wants to follow him on TikTok. It's Justin. I think his name is It's Justin Prince or I'm Justin Prince. It's one of the two. Anyway, I think we're going to try and get him on here actually, but
awesome.
He had a little clip on TikTok that was like, the struggles that you have are the same size of that struggle is the same size of the accomplishment when you move forward. And he was like, if you look at small struggles, you'll have small accomplishments. If you have big struggles and you get past it, you'll have big accomplishments. And I saw that and I thought, man, like, there's not a lot of progression without the struggle. And when I look back just on my short life so far, and I think about, man, like all the hard things that I was just like, man, I don't know if I'm going to get through this, Mm-hmm. Even if it's something as small as like working 12 hours versus, taking on buying a new business or running a new business or, whatever, put a name to it, right? Whatever it is, it seems like whenever you push yourself that much, if you stay positive, and even if you don't come out where you think that you should have came out, there always seems to be that progression with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in jiu-jitsu, there's a saying that's almost cliche at this point. You either win or you learn.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I learn a lot.
Well, I think that's important, though, for people to know, because I think a lot of that pressure, and at least for me, I guess I can't speak for everyone. For me, it was sports, and it was a lot of pressure to play a certain way, to be a certain way, to be on All Stars, to be on, whatever. And then when there was that failure, it was just everything comes tumbling down. Mm-hmm. Instead of, hey, this did happen. This is why. This is what we can do to correct it next time. This is why. And I never got that. It was always just, well, good job. You let that ball get by you, or you miss through that, or you miss the shot, or whatever it is. And there was never, hey man, we're gonna shoot 100 of those shots tomorrow, and we're gonna get better at it. And so having that structure, and I think having a kid, right, is where my mind kind of starts going to that. Having those struggles, it's fine to have those struggles. There's no such thing as failure, right? There's being right or learning, like you're saying. But I think that's a big part of it. And to know that like you said, everyone is going through these things, but how are you going to react to it? Which, like, if there's anything I want to instill in my kid, it's probably something like that. Like, dude, it's okay. You're going to have struggles. Everyone does. I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I've made mistakes. Like, I think growing up, I saw my parents as this perfect example, and I never saw fault in them.
That's so difficult to live up to.
Right.
One of the reasons why veterans struggle so difficultly when they get out is because the standards of the military are, I mean, in the Marine Corps, our standards are legendary. So when you get out of the Marine Corps and all of a sudden you're not meeting these standards anymore, or you're doing things that before may have not been, the Marine Corps way, you start to weigh yourself against that. It's like, am I still worthy of that anymore? And a lot of people, for everyone, this might be different, but for me, one of the greatest accomplishments of my life was the military. And for a lot of people, it's the same way. So it's very difficult to find something that replicates that belonging. So that's where a lot of veterans struggle, is feeling like they're never going to measure up again. Or they can't ever achieve not that level of success, because a lot of veterans get out of the military and become more monetarily successful, or they start a business. But for whatever reason, they feel like their time doesn't matter as much.
I mean, so what are your thoughts to counter that, though? Like, I think about...
Do something that makes you feel good. For me, trying to bring light to some of the mental health issues that some veterans go through. They're little things, but their little things help.
Yeah.
Every grain of rice tips the scale.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than doing nothing, doing something.
Exactly.
Yeah, just like you said, do something. I think about, and I mean, I'm not military, so I'm going to pull a reference off a movie, right, that kind of, I feel like, ties to that.
Love movie references.
Yeah. American Sniper, Chris Kyle story. He comes home and they're having a baby, and he's driving down the road, and he's like, I just don't get it. All these people are driving to the mall and doing these daily things, and we're fighting a war, and they don't even know, like just voicing his opinion about it. And it's like, yeah, how do you detach from that and go back to civilian life and have the same growth, or have the same accomplishment, have the same, I don't know, what's the word? Those aren't the words.
Fulfillment.
Maybe. Yeah.
Man, for some guys, it's really difficult. I mean, especially in those higher end jobs like naval special warfare and, special forces, stuff like that. It requires so much of you that all aspects other than the job start to take a back seat. So when you step away from a job that you devote almost completeness to, you have to find other things to fill that completeness, or to complete that time. A lot of veterans turn to the wrong aspects. They let the things that, they need, that whatever it is, that thing to focus on. For while they were active, it was the job. When they get out, it might be, for a lot of veterans that I know, it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They can just get into the gym and roll for hours and hours and hours, and I'm the same way. I love it. Some people, I know guys that will get on a bike and ride for miles. A lot of athletes here in southern Utah that are endurance athletes. But there are a lot of things that people can do to fill that time. I want to fill more of my time with my family and with things that I can either grow from or help other people that struggle with the same things that I struggle with grow.
I like that. Yeah, stay positive, man. I know it's hard.
Oh, it's so hard, but it's absolutely essential.
Yeah, I think it's something that's helped me a lot, and I may have mentioned it on here. I'm pretty sure I have, and it's cliche as well, I guess, but it's just gratitude. Like, I mean, when I get in some of these funks, or when I'm overworked or I'm overstressed, or, I'm worried about my wife or my kid or my mom or my siblings or whatever, and all those things pile up, and it, starts to kind of weigh you down. And then I just think, like, I mean, I've got a pretty good life. I've got a wife that would do anything for me. I've got a mom that has done everything for me. Siblings that, I didn't have a whole lot of fights when I was a kid because my brothers usually took care of it, and their motto was nobody beats Derick up but them. So, so they usually finished most of the fights that I started.
It's nice to have the cavalry behind you.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't get messed with a whole lot, dude, because usually one of my brothers was pretty close. So, and my oldest brother, Mike's kind of scary. So, yeah, I don't think a lot of people usually messed with him. So he was always the enforcer in our family, like I mean, he's literally tore his shirt off his back for me before. So, he really is like the tone setter. I'll throw him some credit. Like was the one in the military, and he's been through his own struggles in life, and he's had challenges that I could only imagine what it's like going through. And, to this day, he's the protector in our family, I guess is the best way to put it. And, I don't know. I've thought about trying to get him on here too, but he's extreme. So I don't know how he would do. He's still a little bit of that emotional extreme reaction. So, but yeah, I don't know. I when it comes down to it, I think it's a lot about just being grateful, and it's a lot about being positive, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it, or everybody should be able to detach from their problems and be able to do that. But I mean, I guess that's just one exercise that's helped me in life, I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
And exercise is very important. Like you said, it's an exercise, and mental health is an exercise. For me, I go to a therapist every week, same time every week. And, I think of it no differently than I go to the dentist twice a year. I go to my doctor at least twice a year, more if there's things that need to be addressed. For me, my mental health, once a week, it's nice to get in there with someone who is trained to navigate these things and who isn't attached to the situation, who I can just talk to. And sometimes I just say, hey, am I crazy for thinking this? Is this out of the realms of what's normal? And sometimes they say, no, you have a right to feel this way. And sometimes it's, well, Bill, we got to figure out why you're feeling this way, and there are probably more constructive ways to go about this. So, and, whether that's, individually going to a therapist, or you and your wife, couples therapy doesn't have to be issues that we have with each other. Couples therapy could be, hey, I have issues in my life and I want to talk to a therapist about them, but I also want my partner to be aware of those things. And because if you're as attached to your partner as I am, your issues are going to bleed onto them if you don't get them worked on.
Yeah. And even for them to maybe come across some of those tools that can help them in your daily life going back and forth. I've talked to a few friends and a few people. I've never been like to a therapist, but I have friends that parents are, or they are, and I'm always curious to like pick their brains on it. And I tell my wife, I had no ambition to go to college. And like once I got out of high school, I just couldn't wait to go to full-time working. But I always thought, now, knowing what I know about myself now, if I was going to do some type of college profession, I think I'd go be a therapist. And because it just interests me how people carry themselves, how personalities work. But all in all, I think the most important thing is I get attached and I want to help people. But I think that's part of the podcast as well. It gives people a platform to come on and voice their experiences and things that they've been through.
There's an addiction to helping people.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I'm
Everyone
sure
likes to see the happy ending, Movies make their money off of the happy ending. Everyone wants to be there for that. So helping people it's extremely rewarding. So.
Well, now I'm addicted to something.
Hey, man, addictions can be bad or good. I'm addicted to oxygen. If I don't get it, I'm going to die. So.
All right, I feel better about it now. I was
Right.
putting a negative to that. I was like, guess I do need to go talk to someone.
It's all about the spins of it.
Well, dude, I've really appreciated you coming on. We're getting close to hitting 2 hours, so
Really? Wow. Yeah, we are.
that's what I'm saying. You kind of get lost when you get talking on here, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, give me the business you work for one more time, and if they have a website, and then give me your hotline one more time.
Absolutely.
And then maybe your contact information if anyone wants to jump on and follow you on Instagram.
Yeah, absolutely. So the company I work for is called Form 1Z Suppressors, and we have an Instagram. We also have a website. You can order off our website as long as it's not illegal for you to own suppressors in your state. We can ship it straight to your door. The Veteran Suicide Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. I'm on Instagram, Bill Richison, Form 1Z. If you don't feel comfortable calling some hotline, reach out to me. I'll talk to you all day. I'll help you figure out what's going on. Everyone out there has something amazing about them that offers the world benefit. And if you don't see it in yourself and you don't think anyone else will, I'll help you find it. That everyone deserves that chance in life to find what makes them special. And if you're lacking that and you have no one else, hit me up, and I'll do my best.
I think that's a great way to end it. I appreciate that. That's the best ending we could hope for. So
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to say it.
Yeah, it was fun. Let's wrap it up. Thanks everyone. Hopefully you've stuck with us for 2 hours now. I almost said 2 years, 2 hours now. And again, if you want to reach out to Bill, you have his contact. If you want to reach out to us, another thing people don't know, we're actually pretty open to just taking guests on. We kind of have a list that we've been working on getting people in. I think you were fairly quick. I think we even rescheduled yours.
Yeah, I was coming back from a gun show and caught a little bit of a bug, and we pumped the brakes for a second, and then was able to reschedule.
I'm glad we made it happen, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking 2 hours to come in and hang out with us.
No, this has been awesome. I had anxiety coming in. Like all people, we all suffer from anxiety. This is one of those things where I had a little bit of anxiety. You may have even seen me shake a little bit.
You did great, man.
But,
you did great.
It was fun. I loved it, and thanks for the opportunity to bring awareness to some of the situations that we talked about.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll cut it right here, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for staying with us.